Jin's concert stage that night was no ordinary stage. It is designed not for glamour, but for intimacy. There is no such grandiose lighting system as a world-scale BTS concert. On the contrary, warm and soft lighting was deliberately chosen so that the audience felt like they were in a space of memories where the members could appear as themselves. But this is precisely where all the misunderstandings begin. When Jungkook went on stage and performed Standing Next to You, his face looked more shaded due to the lighting coming from below, not from the front as usual. The camera of a fan who was away from the stage captured a slightly dark silhouette, with shadows under the eyes that made his expression appear more tired on the screen. In the context of cinematography, it is precisely artistic. But in the online world, the interpretation is different. Thousands of comments began pouring in, questioning Jungkook's changed visuals. On the Korean forum, a thread titled, "Jungkook looks different after returning from the US." It's trending. Some have compared his face while performing at last year's Global Citizen Festival with the night of Jin's concert. The difference? Lighting and camera. But for some of the public, such a small difference is enough to start a fire of speculation. On the other hand, some music analysts in the American media looked at the performance from an artistic point of view. Billboard wrote, "There's a rawness in Jungkook's latest live performance that reflects maturity. He's no longer the shiny idol, but a global performer who owns his authenticity." But on Korean social media, the spotlight is different. Does he sleep less? He looks older. Why isn't his face as bright as it used to be? Such comments, while seemingly trivial, reflect the extreme pressures that K-pop idols face. For Jungkook, who has always been known for his never-fail-on-camera face, it's like hitting a wall of reality, because no matter how strong the talent is, the world still measures from the visual side. In fact, if we pay attention, Standing Next to You, that night was not just an appearance, it's a symbol. Jungkook performs a song that lyrically talks about loyalty, support, and brotherhood. He performed for the genie, not for the image. Her simple hand gestures, her gentle gaze towards her hyung, even a slight smile at the end of the song, all imply something deeper, gratitude. But unfortunately, the camera doesn't record that sense, it only records misdirected light. And that's where the world failed to see Jungkook's message. It is not changed. He just wanted to be honest. No longer hidden behind makeup and lighting. No longer structured to look perfect. He lets the public see him for who he is. And maybe that's what shocks some people, because we have been too long accustomed to the ideal version of idols, to the point of forgetting that idols are also human beings. But interestingly, some international fans actually defended Jungkook in an elegant way. They made a video compilation, Natural Jungkook Moments, showing how Jungkook's face without makeup still has tremendous emotional appeal. They wrote, "He's evolving, not fading." The phrase went viral and became the turning point of an initially negative narrative. Because eventually, people began to ask, why are we more busy judging someone's skin, jaw, shape, or eye color when what is shown is sincere music? This moment marked a change of direction in Jungkook's career. He is no longer just a handsome idol. He is becoming an artist who has control over the way he is seen. Perhaps, in the eyes of some, the visual changes. But in more honest eyes, he just showed the best version of himself. A version that doesn't need filters. A version that can only arise from the courage of a person who has lived under the spotlight for too long. But this time, it's not about the music. It's not about the achievements either. Jungkook is a topic of conversation, the visuals. Yes, visual something that has long been considered untouchable by the public. But after his appearance at the latest airport, social media suddenly turned into a huge debate arena. Fans, who usually praise every second of his appearance, this time even looked divided. Some said Jungkook looked pale, too thin, and even extreme comments that said he looks exhausted, not like the global star he used to be. And in the world of global entertainment, one such word can spin into thousands of interpretations. Some Korean media even highlighted something similar, writing that BTS's Jungkook shocked fans with his drastically changed appearance. In fact, when viewed with neutral eyes, Jungkook just looks simple. A dark hoodie, loose pants, and no excess makeup. But that's exactly what sparked a storm of comments. For many industry watchers, it's not just about looks. There is an interesting side to it, how the image of a megastar like Jungkook is formed and maintained. When an artist like her appears in front of the public without filters, the world seems to forget that behind the status of a global icon, she remains an ordinary person. Some fashion analysts even see this phenomenon as a natural image reversal. Jungkook has long been known as the perfect face, symmetrical, clean, with a high-end aura. But by appearing more natural, he forced the public to see a more honest side. And unfortunately, that visual honesty is often rejected by a public accustomed to perfection. However, his interesting side appeared on international platforms. Instead of scoffing, many global fans actually praised this step. They wrote, "He looks like himself again," or "It's refreshing to see Jungkook not hiding behind perfection." Such comments point to the huge difference between Korean visual culture and the Western world, where realness is now considered more valuable than flawlessness. However, media pressure is unavoidable. Within hours, the airport clip was viewed more than 10 million times on TikTok, highlighted by fashion accounts, K-pop analysts, and even beauty columnists. All about one thing. Is Jungkook exhausted, or is he showing this side on purpose? According to industry sources, Jungkook is in a transition period from idol image to more individual activities, including international fashion collaborations and non-musical projects. This means that his every public step is now not just a leisurely stroll at the airport, but part of a larger narrative about who he is after the active BTS era. And here's the interesting point. Every public backlash is actually a reflection of the world's expectations of Jungkook. When he's too perfect, they say he's inhuman. When she looked tired, they say she lost her charm. Though perhaps all that happens is someone who is alive. Not a concept, not a brand, not a persona, just Jungkook, who walks in the airport like anyone who just got off a long flight. But in an era where every expression makes headlines, authenticity often just seems like controversy. And perhaps this is not about Jungkook's down visuals, but about the world not yet ready to see idols without filters. Shortly after the appearance went viral, a number of large accounts on X, Twitter, began raising the topic. Jungkook's visuals are fading, a sentence that seemed simple but sparked a global discussion. In a matter of hours, the hashtag was trending in several Asian countries and even had time to penetrate the list of trends in the United States. The comments came from all directions. Some asked, "Is he sick?" Others pointed out, "This is due to stress and an overly intense lifestyle." But on the other hand, many also defended, writing, "He's just being natural. Stop expecting him to look like a mannequin every day." This phenomenon attracted the attention of media analysts. One columnist from the Korea Herald wrote, "The public has built Jungkook as a symbol of perfection. As soon as the symbol changed slightly, they panicked. And it reflects a larger phenomenon in Korean pop culture where the visual standards of artists, especially idols, are always under extreme pressure. In comparison, Jungkook's appearance this time is indeed very different from his image in Calvin Klein campaigns or his appearance on the international stage. In those airport photos, there's no special lighting, no stylist doing hair every 5 minutes. Just a young man in casual clothes, without excessive expressiveness. But instead, it reveals a reality rarely seen by the public, that behind the glamorous world, there is a fatigue that the camera cannot hide. Some industry observers have even called this backlash a consequence of an iconic image that is too perfect. Jungkook has always been known as an idol with almost flawless visuals, smooth skin, a sharp gaze, and a high-fashion aura. So when the public is confronted with a more relaxed, authentic, even slightly jaded version of him, they feel they are missing something they invented themselves, the myth of Jungkook's perfection. But interestingly, the global reaction actually shows a different direction. On international forums such as Reddit and TikTok, many users praise this transformation. One of the viral comments read, "This is the most human Jungkook has ever looked, and that makes him even more beautiful." This statement was liked by more than 200,000 users in one evening, signaling that the international public began to see value in imperfection. Some cultural communication experts also attribute this to changing global trends in the way the public perceives celebrities. In the past, idol perfection was an asset. Now, human imperfection has become a symbol of closeness and relevance. In other words, the fatigue seen on Jungkook's face may not be a sign of weakness, but rather a signal that he is entering a new phase 1 in which authenticity is valued more than perfect looks. But for the Korean entertainment industry, which is still very visual-centric, a move like this could be considered risky. An anonymous stylist even said in an interview, "When idols of Jungkook's class appear as they are, it can shake the perception of the entire system." Because the public is used to seeing idols as ideal representations, not real people. And therein lies the irony. When Jungkook tries to be himself, the world debates him. Though perhaps, behind all the backlash, there's one subtle message that the world isn't ready to see Jungkook without the layer of idol aura they've come to love. When the video of Jungkook performing Standing Next to You at Jin's concert began to spread widely on social media, second by second, his performance was analyzed with incredible intensity. No detail was spared. From the look in his eyes, the way he stroked his hair, to the expression on his face that looked a little tired. The comments exploded. "He looks different," wrote one international fan account. "Is he not doing well?" add another. But amid the criticism, there was a reflective tone that began to emerge from more mature fans. Maybe this is how a human being who has worked relentlessly for years looks like. This phenomenon is not just about Jungkook's face. It's a great reflection on how the world treats icons like him. For a decade, the public has watched Jungkook grow from an energetic teenager with an innocent smile to a global superstar who must maintain a near-perfect image. However, at the concert, when the cameras captured her without maximum lighting and flawless makeup, it was as if the world was reminded that even the biggest stars can look tired, can perform without filters, can be human. Criticism of Jungkook's visuals at the time actually spoke more about people's expectations than his condition. Industry and fan-created standards have put it in an unnatural position where every little change can spark a global debate. Just look, the haircut is a little different, and the online forums are full of speculation. The skin is a little dull, and theories about stress, tight schedules, or pressure from the agency immediately appear. But on the other hand, it is precisely moments like this that show how much influence Jungkook has, until his every move becomes a reflection of the culture itself. Interestingly, some fashion journalists and international editors even considered this an important moment in the course of her career. Criticism of Jungkook's visuals indicates that the public is already very attached to the image he has built. But when he appears without that perfection, we instead see a new power authenticity, wrote one columnist in The Face magazine. The world is now beginning to shift from a perfect image to an authentic one, and Jungkook unwittingly becomes a representation of that transition. However, the reaction from the fan community also showed two interesting sides. Some defended furiously, highlighting how unfair the criticism was of the male idol who had just completed a full year of global activity. But some are introspective, admitting that all along they themselves have created that pressure by constantly demanding visual perfection. In various comments, a phrase appeared that sounded like a collective confession. Maybe we are too used to seeing Jungkook as a symbol, not as a person. Meanwhile, Korean media analysts view this moment as an important turning point in Jungkook's public image. Over the years, he was known as the golden maknae, who always appeared neat, strong, and charismatic. But at Jin's concert, he unknowingly showed another side, a raw, more real, and perhaps even more touching side. Behind the criticism, there's a new appeal, visual honesty that isn't shaped by studio lighting or big brand concepts. BTS's longtime fans know that Jungkook is a perfectionist. He once said in an interview, "I don't want people to see me look bad, but the world is changing." And now many are beginning to value imperfection as a form of courage. Imagine, in the midst of a system that requires idols to always appear flawless, Jungkook stood on stage with an innocent face and tired eyes, and still captivated thousands of people. It is not a decline, but a transformation. And perhaps this is a new phase in Jungkook's journey as a global icon, when the public begins to see him not only as the face of Calvin Klein or the golden voice of BTS, but also as a human being who lives behind the pressure of expectations. The criticism that comes is no longer about visuals, but about cultural change. About the way the world learns to accept that even someone like Jungkook, who is considered perfect, can also have days where he just wants to appear as he is. In the end, the concert will probably be remembered not for its high notes or stunning choreography, but for one thing: the moment when Jungkook stood before the world without a mask of perfection, and still shone not because of imagery, but because of the courage to be true to himself.